On this new episode of Tricks and Tribulations, I'm going to... What's that? How am I going to skate with all this snow? I'm going to use this. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel all about skateboarding where sometimes I do skateboarding tricks of my own in a series I call Tricks and Tribulations because I always suffer a lot while I try to do a new trick. And this time I'm going to do something on my Snowskate. This is an Ambition Jib Series Snowskate. It is their plastic one. It's designed for backyard obstacles. I think it was a mistake buying this one. I'll talk about that more in a bit. But backyard obstacles, huh? If you do not follow my Instagram, let me show you what I got. So some of this will look familiar to you, although it's so buried in snow that you might not be able to tell. But this is the wood 8x8 platform where I skate freestyle. And this is the box that I've had for a long time. The thing about it is that I modified it by adding a ramp there and a ramp there. The box is screwed down to some 2x4s that are connected to the box, so this is very stable. And this is one sheet of plywood bent down. That is an old door from my basement. And let me tell you, this was a bit of a journey. Originally, I put the door right on top of the chair, and that seemed fine. Like on a skateboard, you'd get more than enough speed on that. As it turns out, that is not the case. So I put some logs here to make it a bit taller, which is also part of what makes this so difficult. That's not flat. So sometimes you drop in and the tail slips a little bit. I also put the chair on top of a wood platform, and then later put that platform on top of some 2x4s. Can't tell because all that junk is up against it, but that is actually goes down a little bit deeper. So I've built and slowly modified this setup so that I can do some cool tricks this winter. And I have had two goals this winter. The first is to do a backside nose blunt, and the second is to do something with the kickflip out. Both of them are very difficult with the plastic board, and I'll tell you why. If you noticed how steep the tails are, it's because the board bends so much. Let me show you. So you can see how crazy steep the tails are, but once you actually step on it, it bends down and it flexes. And it gets to a point where it feels like a normal kicktail. Problem is, when you step down on the tail, the middle of the board comes up, and you ride a bit slower that way. So dropping in on my ramp with a foot on the tail or the nose makes me go a little bit slower. And that makes it all a bit more difficult. But I'm going to start by doing a couple tricks to prepare for this. So far, all I've done on this, I've just been slowly making it taller and taller so that it works. But I've done backboards, backboard shove, big spin, stuff like that, which I will show you in a moment. And then I'm going to get on to trying some new things. So here's a slightly better view of the setup. I have so much snow now that it's hard to see, but this is what it looked like back when I set it up in November. So all I had really done at this point, a couple of board slides, shove it. I would like to be able to get up on there and do some more flip tricks. Board slide to fakie, and then board slide shove, which is pretty cool. And then this one, which is even cooler, backboard big spin out. I was pretty happy with that one. But here's how it looks now. That was back in November. First few attempts when it snows again are really slow because you're pushing through a lot of snow there. It's very difficult to figure out, to get it all packed down and get everything perfect. So doing a couple of front boards to get used to sliding backward here. Again, my speed is very slow at this point. The surface is very complicated. Like you want it to be packed down or hard, like on the bare wood there, but just some loose snow on top is kind of the ideal for this. So finally getting a couple of those front boards down. Next thing I need is a nose press. But, as I said, when you drop in with your foot on the nose, you actually go a lot slower. So you can see me stepping up onto the nose right as I reach the top. Even so, you do end up going a lot slower. Very frustrating, and I feel like I definitely should have gotten the wood board to be able to do this kind of stuff. I also had to repair that little spot on the ramp. You have to do that a lot. If you fall right there with my knee when I hit the ground, or right here when the board goes edge first, that'll dig down into the snow. So you got to pack it all down to make sure it's nice and flat. And then I'm going to kick a little bit of loose snow on top so that if I land, I can make tracks. If it's completely packed, you just kind of slide. So again, going for that nose press, and it is very difficult for a couple different, there's a couple of different factors. Like if it's all crusty on the top, it's not going to slide as well. And I'm starting to get a little bit of success with that. But it is quite difficult to just hold that the whole way. It feels so much different. It's not like you're doing a nose grind or a crooked grind or something like that. Like you can slip out in any direction on this, so it does feel a bit different. I'm starting to land a couple of them. I know I'm hanging up on the back, I was going to say back truck, but that's the thing. There is no back truck. If I just slide out on the tail, it doesn't really matter. That's not the trick I'm going for. This is all just practice still. So at this point, going for that front nose blunt, and it is going better than I expected it to. I was actually very surprised at this point. And I can kind of drop in on this off the side like I'm landing, like I'm putting down the tail and then kick turning off of it. I could land that. Not really my hopes and dreams for the trick, like right there. It's a nose blunt, not really a good one, so I'm still going. I'm trying to land it pretty good, hoping to, if I can do it quickly, I can still get into the backside version. So I'm holding on to that. It feels so weird. It's very difficult to explain, being, covered in snow and sliding on this box. Also, sorry about there only being one camera angle for this particular part. Don't worry, there will be more soon. It's just that I didn't expect to get very far. I thought this was going to be a very long process, slowly getting all these tricks, but the fact that I got to this one already I was actually pretty surprised by, so I didn't bring out all of the cameras. And then here we got a decent one. I did hang up a bit. Okay, so that was not the best landing, I will admit, but I got one more in before the battery died, and I wasn't gonna go swap out the battery to try it some more. So I called that good enough, and today I'm just gonna go straight for the back nose blunt. The front one was a little side quest. That was just a proof of concept, just to see if it was possible because of the issues with the board, the plastic, and just to see that it could be done. Now that I know that a frontside nose blunt can be done, I feel pretty good about trying the backside one. I'm a little worried about the difficulty and the technique and the balance and how awkward it could feel, but I'm gonna go for it anyway, and let's see what happens. And now you finally get to see what the drop-in looks like. It's pretty difficult, especially when I'm trying to do the actual trick. I gotta put my foot on the nose as I drop in. So there are times when I drop in and my foot's just in the wrong spot and I gotta throw it away. I actually don't show you about 80% of the attempts from this day because I was at it for a long time, over and over and over. But to start with, I'm just going to do a couple of board slides. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to come out to fakie or not. Fakie feels like it would be easier as far as not hanging up, but it would mean that I have to turn all the way around, which is a lot more difficult because you got to kind of rotate during the drop-in. You can't get a full spin after you hit the flat. Like you got to drop in with the intent to spin. Pretty difficult. So as you can see, I'm having some problems with the surface. You can slide on the snow, but it's not consistent. So I decided I'm going to try to make it kind of a slush, and that should slide pretty well. But the problem is just look at how not flat that is. There's lots of different spots, and it's wet and then dry, and then there's crust here and not there. So it is pretty hard. And I'm just not even getting that close yet. Every time I try to push down on the nose, I immediately slip out. And every now and then, like that one, every now and then I start to get close enough that I want to keep going. And it's just starting to feel like it's not going to happen. And as you can see, this camera is slowly falling upward, and another camera is slowly falling downward. Which is also adding to the frustration, not in the moment because I didn't notice, but it's adding to my frustration now. But I just kept doing this, and I just kept slamming. I'm 100% committed, and honestly, it's starting to drive me crazy.
feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody...
And that is when the battery cut out, which I am really fine with because I was not making a lot of progress. And on my way in, I think I figured out exactly why. Let's take a look at the box. So what I noticed on the way in is that right about here down it was wet, and from here up it was crusty. And the problem is I could slide on it if it's crusty. I was doing fine, but as soon as I hit that slick spot, I'd either slip out or I would expect it and anticipate it and I would hang up there. So that transition from wet to dry or from dry to wet was causing some problems, I think. And so I brought a secret weapon, which is hot water. Not boiling, I'm not trying to damage anything, but it is hot. And every now and then I'm gonna drip some wet hot water on there, which I think will help because it'll at least be consistent. If it was consistently dry, consistently wet, I think I would have gotten it by now. I'm not sure. Because I think I'm fully committed. I think my technique is okay, but I'm just having trouble putting it down, and I think that's why. So that is my strategy for today. Going into it pretty confident. Let's see what happens. So I start by putting a nice base heat down on top of this, which I think was a pretty good idea. And I'm hoping that it just makes it consistent. So the crustiness yesterday was a problem. Also, I would run into the coping sometimes. So this is just some starting attempts here just to kind of get a feel for it again. I think I'm going to try to pop out to normal this time. It seems like it's going to be tough considering how I hung up on the front side one. But those couple attempts seem like they went well, so I'm kind of committed to doing it out to normal this time. Another problem you will see is how snowy my board gets. Yesterday I had a problem and I decided to try to do this to solve it. There were times where I would try to land it. I would like, ooh, look at how close that one got. I was so stoked at that one because this is very early in. I'm maybe 5 minutes into the day and it is going well. But yeah, I had some attempts where I would try to land and I could see that my foot slipped off the board. I couldn't tell at the time, but when I went back and watched it, I could see my foot was just slipping off. And I'm trying to solve that one. You can see me getting pretty close. I'm not intending to go to fakie, but if it happens, it happens. Oh, close again. Got to make sure that I keep the ground nice and flat, or else I'm going to get myself in trouble. But I'm starting to get pretty close here. Well, I did it. Was it the most beautiful one ever? I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I think I could have been a little bit more sideways, but that felt good, and I am pretty happy with that. As it turns out, the secret is hot water. Pro tip for you, if you're out there trying to snow skate. It worked. I also waxed it though. I waxed it last night because it had gone dry, and so I waxed that whole part. So it was wet. Hot, wet water, hot and wet wax. But I don't think the sliding was the problem. It was the consistency in sliding, and so sometimes you gotta work smarter and not harder, because I was killing myself on this yesterday, and it turns out it wasn't that bad. It's hard. The trick is hard. I've never done a nose blunt except for on ramps before, so like it was tough, but I managed to do it. You may have noticed I poured water on my board to clean it off, and that worked, but the top of it, like not where my feet are, but like right on the top, it iced over. So there's a thin layer of ice on there, and that may have helped stiffen the board. I don't know, but I did it. My second goal for the season is something with a kickflip out. I don't know if that's possible because of the plastic board, but it might be. You know, like a backflip kickflip out I think would be really cool, or a tail press kickflip, something like that would be really good. But I am very pleased that I got that. I've been dreaming about doing this trick before it snowed, you know, for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I finally got the chance to do it, and I feel pretty good about it. I liked how much distance I got afterward too, because I didn't land perfectly straight, and sometimes you land on that and you move like a foot and stop. Even the pros will do that because you can't really control if there's a bump right there. If you land solid and balanced, then it counts, you know. But you have to move a little bit. But I managed to roll away a decent amount, or ride away a decent amount, whatever term you want to use. But I'm very happy about that. So that is it for me today. You may see another trick on here this winter. You may not. We will see. But thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time.